Welcome to the deep dive. We're really glad you're here with us today. I want you to picture something for a second. You're sitting at your desk, and you're staring at a blank screen. There's just this blinking cursor mocking you.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Maybe you're trying to draft a really intimidating email to your boss, or you need to put together a high-stakes project update for a client, or maybe you're just trying to quickly prove a point in a meeting without sounding like you're endlessly rambling.
Which is surprisingly hard to do under pressure.
It really is. So if you've ever felt that very specific type of communication anxiety, you are in the exact right place today, because we're handing you a shortcut to mastering high-pressure communication.
And it's a skill absolutely everyone needs, but very few people are actually taught how to execute it well.
Exactly. And the craziest part is where we're getting this shortcut from. Our source material for this deep dive is a fascinating document. It's a set of excerpts from a guide called Mastering AP History, Short Answer Questions with the TA Method.
Which sounds incredibly specific.
I know what you're thinking, high school history exams. But stick with us. Our mission today is to uncover exactly how this document teaches students to rapidly analyze historical evidence and write incredibly concise, high-impact answers. Because, as we're going to see, this highly specific test-taking formula might actually just be the ultimate blueprint for any clear, persuasive communication you need to do in your daily life.
It's a brilliant connection to make. I mean, I want you to imagine the space around us right now. Picture a classic, dusty mahogany library filled with sprawling, endless volumes of human history. The sheer volume of information is crushing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right, but now watch as that library slowly fades and transitions into a crisp, glowing blue architectural blueprint. That's exactly what this guide does to history. It takes the overwhelming, infinite expanse of information and structures it into something manageable, actionable, and mathematically precise. I know you're here because you want to learn, you want to absorb the best strategies, but you absolutely do not want the overwhelm of information overload. And this method we're exploring today is the perfect antidote to that overwhelm.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the sheer pressure of the AP History exam is legendary. We're talking about high school students facing down the College Board under immense time constraints.
Immense.
Specifically, the material we're looking at focuses on Section I, Part B of the exam. These are the short answer questions, or SAQs. And this section alone makes up a massive 20% of the total exam score.
20%.
20%. That's make or break for getting college credit. And the parameters laid out in the text are incredibly tight. Imagine yourself sitting in that gymnasium. You have to tackle 3 complex historical questions in roughly 40 minutes.
40 minutes for 3 multifaceted questions. It leaves absolutely no room for hesitation. You can't sit there waiting for inspiration to strike.
Right. And the structure of those 3 questions isn't just a free-for-all. Question 1 is required, and it uses what they call a secondary source stimulus. So what does that actually mean in practice?
A secondary source stimulus means the test gives you a text written by a historian who is analyzing a past event. You aren't just reacting to a historical fact, you're reacting to someone else's interpretation of it.
Gotcha.
Then question 2 is also required, but it pivots. It uses a primary source stimulus. That means you're looking at an original document, maybe a diary entry, a political cartoon, or a photograph actually from that specific time period.
Okay, so you're analyzing interpretations, then you're analyzing raw historical data. What about the third question?
Well, for the last one, test takers actually get a choice between question 3 or question 4. But here's the catch. Neither of these comes with a stimulus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's no text, no image to spark your memory. You're flying completely blind, relying entirely on your own internal database of knowledge.
That is terrifying, especially when you consider the scope of what these students are being tested on. Looking through this framework, the time frames are mind-boggling.
They really are.
Depending on whether they're taking AP European History, AP US History, or AP World History, the prompt could literally be about anything from the last several centuries.
The cognitive agility required is staggering. I mean, let's look at the specific timeframes mentioned. If you're taking AP Euro, questions 1 and 2 cover 1600 to 2001. Question 3 covers 1450 to 1815, and question 4 spans 1815 to 2001.
That is a massive chunk of time.
It is. AP USH, or U.S. History, covers 1754 to 1980 for the first 2 questions, 1491 to 1877 for the third, and 1865 to 2001 for the fourth. And AP World is even broader.
Right, because it's the whole world.
Yeah. Exactly. 1200 to 2001 for questions 1 and 2. Then 1200 to 1750 for question 3, and 1750 to 2001 for question 4. Imagine having to write a structured argument about 13th century trade routes in one breath, and then a few minutes later pivoting to analyze 20th century Cold War geopolitics.
My brain hurts just thinking about it.
The eras, the geographies, the political systems, it all shifts constantly. But the core philosophy here, and the reason this matters to you listening right now, whether you're a manager, a creative, or an entrepreneur, is a phrase this document uses that I just love. Precision beats verbosity.
Precision beats verbosity. That should be printed on a mug in every office.
Truly. This test isn't about writing long, beautiful, rambling essays with flowery introductions. It's about extracting the exact nugget of truth. It's surgical. And that's a skill you'll profoundly appreciate the next time you have to give a sudden update in a meeting or quickly synthesize a brief for a client. You don't want verbosity, you want precision.
I couldn't agree more. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting, got nervous, and just started word vomiting everything I knew about a project, hoping something would stick.
It never works.
It never works. People just tune out. Which brings us to a really crucial part of the guide, understanding the prompt. Because if you don't know the rules of engagement, you can't win.
The text points out that the very first thing you have to look for is the task verb.
Yes, this is where so many people fail before they even begin writing. If you misread the task verb, it costs you points immediately. The grader doesn't care how brilliant your historical knowledge is if you didn't answer the specific command they gave you. Think about how that applies to your inbox.
Oh, absolutely.
If your boss emails you asking for a timeline, and you reply with a 3-paragraph explanation of why the project is hard, you failed the task verb.
Oh, wow, yes. I've definitely been guilty of that. So what are the specific verbs this AP test uses? How do they differ? The document breaks down a few key ones. Let's look at the most basic one, identify. This simply means to name or state something. You don't need a deep dive.
Okay, so like a quick fact check.
Exactly. The historical example they provide is identify one reason for westward expansion. The correct, precise answer is just the desire for more farmland. You name it, and you move on.
That feels almost too simple. But I guess that's the point of precision. What happens when they ask you to describe? That sounds basically the same as identifying.
It's a subtle but vital difference. Describe means you have to explain what something looks like, what happened, or how it functions. You have to paint a quick picture. The example used is, describe one effect of the Industrial Revolution on urban life. You can't just identify it by saying bad cities.
Right, that's way too vague.
Way too vague. You have to describe the conditions, so you would say cities became overcrowded and polluted.
Ah, okay. So identify is just dropping a pin on the map, but describe is telling me what the terrain looks like.
That's a great way to put it.
That makes sense. But then there's explain. And looking at the rubric, this seems to be where the expectations really escalate.
Yes. Explain is the heavy lifter. It requires you to show cause or reasoning. You have to connect the dots. The text gives a great example. Explain one reason the Articles of Confederation failed. If you just identify that it failed because of money issues, you lose the point. If you describe that the government was broke, you still lose.
Because you didn't explain the mechanism.
Exactly. You have to explain the mechanism of why.
So what's the winning answer for that one?
The precise answer is, it lacked the power to tax, preventing debt repayment or military funding. You see the cause lacking the power to tax, and the effect preventing debt repayment linked firmly together.
That is so clean. And finally, there's compare or contrast, which obviously means showing similarities or differences.
Right.
So if the prompt says, compare the economic systems of North and South before the Civil War, your answer has to explicitly highlight both systems side by side.
What's fascinating here is the mental strategy the document recommends before a student even picks up their pen. It strongly advises against just diving in and writing. Instead, you have to visualize a mini answer in your head first.
Like a blueprint.
Exactly like a blueprint. It outlines a highly structured breakdown method. First, you physically circle that task verb on the paper. Second, you underline the key content. Are they asking about an event, a person, a policy? Third, you identify the scope, meaning the specific time period or region. And fourth, you check the qualifiers. Are they asking for one reason, two effects, or the most significant cause?
I can completely imagine how easy it is to skip that visualization step when the clock is ticking down and panic sets in. You just want to start moving your pencil.
But that panic is exactly what leads to the common pitfalls listed in the text. When you rush, you make unforced errors.
Oh, for sure.
The guide warns against writing about the wrong time period or region, which is an instant zero for that question, no matter how beautifully written the answer is.
Another massive trap it mentions is answering extra parts that weren't asked for. or including irrelevant information just to show off what you know. Confusing identify with explain is a big one, too.
Exactly. The grader does not care about what else you know. They have a rubric. They only care if you answered the specific prompt in front of them. It's a harsh reality check.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because knowing what to avoid is one thing, but how do you actually construct the perfect bulletproof answer when you're under that kind of pressure? The text introduces the absolute star of the show, the TEA formula. TEA, topic, sentence, evidence, analysis.
The TE method, it's an incredibly elegant framework. It essentially forces you to build a logically sound micro-argument every single time. Let's break down that first letter T for topic sentence.
The document calls this a mini thesis. What does that look like in practice?
It means it has to directly respond to the task verb, and it must include the key content from the question, all wrapped up in 1 to 2 focused sentences. The crucial advice here is don't bury the lead.
Right to the point.
Exactly. Start with the answer immediately. Don't warm up. Don't set the scene. Just answer.
Right. So if the prompt is, explain one economic reason for European colonization in the Americas, your topic sentence should be something like, one economic reason for European colonization in the Americas was the pursuit of valuable natural resources, such as gold and silver, which European nations wanted to increase their wealth. Boom. You've answered the question directly, using the words from the prompt.
It's solid, but a topic sentence alone isn't enough to prove anything. It's just a claim. That brings us to E, evidence. The framework emphasizes that you absolutely need specific historical facts here. We are talking names, dates, events, specific laws, policies, or statistics.
And this seems to be where the grading gets really ruthless.
Oh.
You can't just be generally correct, you have to be specifically correct.
Precisely. And this is where so many people falter, not just in history exams, but in everyday professional communication. Using that same European colonization example, you cannot just use vague evidence. Well, you can't just write, for example, they wanted money. The grader will give you 0 points for that because it demonstrates no actual historical knowledge.
Which is exactly like saying in a meeting, sales are down because the economy is bad, it's vague, it's unhelpful, and it proves nothing.
Exactly. The correct specific evidence for the history prompt looks like this. For instance, the Spanish established gold mines in modern-day Mexico and Peru to extract precious metals. Look at the density of that sentence. It names the specific actors, the Spanish. It names the locations, Mexico and Peru. It names the action establishing gold mines. It's undeniable proof.
It's so much stronger. It actually gives your argument teeth. But even with a great topic and specific evidence, you're still not done. You need the A, analysis. And honestly, this seems like the hardest part. What exactly is the analysis doing?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, analysis is all about answering the grader's silent judgmental question, so what? You've given me a claim, you've given me a fact, so what? Why does this specific evidence prove your topic sentence? You have to explicitly show the cause, effect, or historical significance. You have to do the thinking for the reader.
Okay, so following our European colonization example, we have our topic about wanting natural resources and our evidence about Spanish gold mines in Mexico and Peru. How do we bring that home with analysis?
According to the framework, the analysis ties it all together like this. This demonstrates that European nations were motivated primarily by economic gain, which drove competition among empires and accelerated colonization. You're tying a neat little bow on the whole package. You're explaining why the Spanish gold mines matter to the broader trend of colonization.
I want you, listening right now, to really think about this for a second. Think about how often you read emails or project proposals or corporate reports that have a topic but completely lack any specific evidence. Or maybe they throw a massive spreadsheet of data at you, the evidence, but completely skip the analysis, leaving you staring at the numbers wondering, okay, so what am I supposed to actually do with this information?
It happens every single day in every industry.
It does. This TEA method isn't just for a high school AP history test. It is a universal roadmap for clarity. Tell me what you're arguing, prove it with a specific, undeniable fact, and then tell me why it matters to the big picture.
It's brilliant in its simplicity. But the guide is very strict about the execution of this method. Remember that mantra, precision over verbosity. The golden rule laid out in the text is that an entire TEA response should be just 2 to 4 sentences per SAQ part. Think about that restraint. 2 to 4 sentences to deliver a topic, evidence, and analysis.
That goes against every instinct you have as a student or even as an employee trying to impress a boss. When we're nervous, We want to write a novel to prove how hard we're working. We want to word vomit everything we know onto the page.
But the framework is explicit. You must label every part clearly, A, B, and C, and do not combine them into one massive, unreadable paragraph. You must use complete sentences, you must write in the past tense since it's history, and you must ruthlessly eliminate all filler words. More words do not equal more points. In fact, more words usually dilute your argument.
That brings up a trap the text highlights, which I found so relatable, the irrelevant info trap.
Oh, this is a classic mistake. The document provides a brilliant example of what not to do. Imagine the prompt asks you to explain one effect of the New Deal on labor unions. The wrong answer, the trap, is to start rambling about the background context to prove you know the era. So a student might start writing, the Great Depression started in 1929 after the stock market crashed, and it caused massive unemployment and breadlines across the entire country.
And the graders already rolling their eyes, red pen in hand, ready to cross it out.
Precisely, because you aren't answering the prompt. The prompt asked about the New Deal and labor unions, not the origins of the Great Depression. The correct, precise answer cuts straight through the noise. The Wagner Act of 1935 protected collective bargaining, which strengthened workers' rights. You hit the specific law, the specific year, and the specific effect. 3 parts, 1 sentence. Done.
The source material really doesn't sugarcoat the harsh realities of the grading rubric either. It lists out the exact scenarios that will tank your score. If you write a beautiful topic sentence but provide no specific evidence, you lose the point. If you provide vague evidence, like our earlier they wanted money example, you lose the point. If the prompt says explain and you just drop a fact but skip the analysis at the end, you lose the point.
And crucially, if you bury your topic or your evidence at the very end of a sprawling, rambling paragraph, the grader might just miss it entirely. They are reading hundreds of these. They aren't going to go digging for your thesis. If it isn't clear immediately, you lose the point.
Which brings us to perhaps the most stressful part of the entire ordeal, surviving the clock. The time management strategy outlined in this material is intense. Let's do the math on this because it is legitimately terrifying. You have 40 minutes to complete 3 full SAQs. But remember, each SAQ has multiple parts, usually an A, a B, and a C. So you're really writing 9 mini essays.
When you break it down, you have about 12 to 13 minutes per complete SAQ. That's roughly 4 minutes per A, B, or C section.
Wow.
And within that 40 minutes, the guide strongly suggests leaving yourself 2 to 4 minutes at the very end for a quick final review to catch obvious errors.
It requires absolute, unwavering discipline. How does the text suggest managing those 12 minutes?
It advises a very tactical approach. You spend the first 30 to 60 seconds strictly in the planning phase. That's when you do what we talked about earlier, underline the verbs, circle the content, think of your one strong piece of specific evidence, and mentally outline your TEA structure. You absolutely do not let your pen touch the paper to start writing your final answer until you have that mental outline locked in.
But let's be real for a second. What happens when your brain just freezes? You're sitting there, the clock is ticking down, the pressure is immense, and you suddenly cannot remember a single specific fact about the Articles of Confederation to save your life. What do you do?
The document actually has a bailout plan for exactly this scenario, and it's a crucial piece of test-taking psychology. If you are stuck on a question for more than 6 or 7 minutes, you have to cut your losses and move to the next one.
That is such a difficult thing to do in the moment. The natural human instinct is to keep digging, staring at the page, hoping the answer will magically come to you if you just concentrate harder.
It is difficult, but it's mathematically necessary. The guide wisely points out that partial credit beats no credit. If you spend 20 minutes agonizing over question 1 because you want it to be perfect, you're going to run out of time and get a 0 on question 3. In fact, a bonus tip it offers is to briefly scan the entire exam first and actually answer the easiest SAQ first.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Build some momentum.
Exactly. Get those easy points on the board, build your confidence, keep a relentless eye on the clock, and whatever you do, do not over-explain. Say what needs to be said, prove it, analyze it, and get out.
So what does this all mean? When we take a step back and look at all these strategies for mastering AP History short answer questions with the TE method, what's the big takeaway for those of us who haven't taken a history test in years? To me, it's the realization that this exam isn't actually about memorizing every single obscure fact in the universe.
Right.
It's not a trivia contest. It is fundamentally a test of precision. It's about deploying specific evidence efficiently, and it's about analyzing the so what under immense ticking clock pressure.
I completely agree. And for you, listening right now, the takeaway extends far, far beyond a high school classroom. Think about your daily professional life. Treating your emails, your updates, and your proposals like these mini essays will absolutely transform how people respond to you.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you start answering questions directly, without bearing the lead, if you back up your claims with one strong, specific piece of evidence instead of vague generalities, and if you always take a moment to explain the significance, the so what, you will become an incredibly effective communicator. You will save yourself time, and perhaps more importantly, you will save everyone around you a tremendous amount of time.
It really is the ultimate professional superpower. Whenever you're stuck, just apply the TEA method: topic, evidence, analysis.
It truly is a superpower in the modern workplace. But this raises an important question, something for you to mull over long after we sign off today. The source material we reviewed explicitly advises students to practice with official College Board exams and check their answers against the exact scoring guidelines. It literally teaches students to treat the grand, sweeping narrative of human history as a strict, gradable formula. But it makes you wonder, if millions of students are intensely trained year after year to reduce massive, complex, messy historical epochs down to a rigid three-sentence TEA formula just to appease a grader's rubric, how does that mechanical conditioning change the way future generations will naturally construct, remember, and ultimately tell the story of human history?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy thought to leave on. Are we turning the messy beauty of history into a spreadsheet just to pass a test? It's definitely something to think about the next time you're trying to distill a complex topic down to a few bullet points. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you feel a little more armed and ready to tackle whatever high-pressure communication comes your way this week. Go out there, remember that precision beats verbosity, and apply the TEA method to your next big challenge. We'll catch you next time.